And to most, this probably just looks like your standard 110 scale RC crawler, but it's not until we get the body off to show you guys what's going on underneath that you realize there's a whole lot more going on. So stick around, we'll get the body off and show you how you can build your own RC Prerunner. Starting off with the body, this is a RC for me. It's a 1979 Ford Bronco hard body. And this was originally picked up from eBay through RC4Me. And what sucks is that when we pulled this out of the box, all the chrome trim was bent so badly that it was almost unusable. So the only issue that I had is that we were running a different wheel and tire combo. We're running the same tires as the Toyota Prerunner. So this is a Proline BF Goodrich Cam 3 on the same Element Ocho rim. And when we mounted the body up, I just had this weird, it was sitting up like high, and I just couldn't figure out where my eye was picking up the difference. But if you look at the Lexan bodies or this original hard body, it comes down much further than this line of the door. I looked at some pictures online of actual Broncos, and it looks like the fender, the body line stops pretty much at this door line. And the original body came down quite significantly here, so I wanted to utilize the stock Element frame rails, the rock sliders, so that it would actually have some rigidity and hold the body in place. I wanted to use these stock rock sliders, and without cutting the body, it just had this goofy look. So I'll roll some footage in right now of me actually cutting the body. We went out to the shop and I just measured with a tape line and kind of basically just eyeballed it. And I had to go back out there and sand it a few extra times, but we cut it and came up quite a substantial bit on both sides. And then when we came back in here and dropped it on, we had the wheel well tuck that actually looked kind of proper to the body size and to the rim package. With all the chrome being beat, we just decided to go with like a rough primer paint job, and then I painted this just flat black with some straight up spray paint, and then installed all the lighting kit. And this is running a RC 4-wheel drive 87 extended cab lighting kit that I just extended and soldered with a little piece extra in the middle. And then on the back here, same thing on the taillights. We just had to cut the chrome out, and that would have been going all the way across as a one piece. And then we're running a Baja Ray taillight. One of the first things I did to actually convert this from a crawler to a Prerunner is get some of the weight over the rear axle. And just like you would in a real Prerunner, the idea is you want to get as much weight over or behind the rear axle as possible. So one, it'll assist in kind of floating the nose when you're going over whoops. And two, when you do come off of jumps, you definitely want this thing to be landing, you know, with the rear wheels first. And that kind of led me on this journey to build this Kydex battery mount, and then we just reutilized one of these long Element Enduro battery trays and mounted that directly to this little Kydex mount. This is the Kydex mount right here, and I just got that tapped into the frame brace right here, and then utilizing the stock holes for this battery tray. And if you don't run your battery in the rear, when you come off of a jump, the truck's gonna nosedive. So as soon as you come off of the first whoop, you want most of the weight distribution to be towards the rear. So when you do come off, the front is wanting to stay floating and it's not wanting to nosedive into the front. And once we got the battery situated in the rear, we moved on to the front. So we added another battery tray, which I had from a different Element kit, up to the front to kind of act as a roost guard, because this is a functioning 4-wheel drive system. And then we went up to the front, and without having to use any of the shock keys or anything, we just utilized some Baja Ray shocks. And these Baja Ray shocks, I'll show you in some other video, but you can actually see the geometry wise is almost perfect. So if you allow these arms, if you take this shock off and allow the arms to go into full droop, you'll notice that this shock isn't limiting it in up travel or down travel. So it was the perfect size shock, and the spring rates are so close that I can't wait to get out and actually see how it actually performs jumping. So kind of coming back to the rear, so we're utilizing a Gatekeeper rear battery tray for a shorty, just kind of as like a bulkhead and to hold this rear party light. And then that kind of leads us into the Gatekeeper shock towers. So the whole plan with this Bronco was just kind of make it decimate the Toyota setup as far as suspension goes. And the way we're making this work is just using this Element Gatekeeper shock tower. So by using that and using a Gatekeeper front shock tower flipped around for the rear, that's how we're actually getting this shock mount to run the trailing arm setup. For me, Element already did a lot of the geometry setup for this, so I knew that this would work, and this is such a cheap setup. These trailing arms are only like 10 bucks, and this whole Gatekeeper kit was like 20 bucks. And this was just a really easy way for us to test different shock packages without taking apart the Toyota Prerunner. So we mounted up the Gatekeeper set, we got an Extreme RC 4x4 trailing arm conversion kit, and then we got the Gatekeeper trailing arms. And that allowed us to run a PowerStroke XT, which is a 5-inch shock, and it's a huge shock compared to the stock setup. For comparison, this is the stock shock right here, and this would be basically in fully droop, and this shock's only sitting basically at ride height right now. So it's a huge difference in the amount of oil and the amount of impact that this shock can handle versus the stock shock. These are just not up to the task for jumping or for any kind of high-speed maneuvering or anything. We do have another set that's going to go on that Toyota Prerunner because we ended up tearing up one of those shocks, actually trashing this thing down a sand dune hill. So these are the XT Extended Travel, and that's a 6275 by Proline. That's an XT PowerStroke. It is a good quality shock, and it just allows us to be able to get some of this insane travel numbers that we're actually boasting with this setup. And moving up to the sway bar, this is a Vanquish Curry style anti-rock sway bar. This is an off-road sway bar designed for the Yeti. And what we did is we just run a variation of spacers on both sides, and that allows us to actually get it so that the arm clears for all the body mounts. And by using these spacers, it didn't really require any modifications. The arm is at a little dramatic angle, but it doesn't, you know, restrict travel or anything, so I think it'll work fine. And with all the weight in the rear axle, we got it strapped at 90 millimeters. So we're running a set of Hot Racing 90 millimeter limit straps, and the top one's just mounted up into the shock tower, and the bottom one's on the rear axle, and then on the full bump, they just kind of suck right into the frame rails right there. And it was cool, this kit allowed us to run the stock link, so we didn't have to get crazy with the link geometry or anything like else, and it just allowed us to get a long travel suspension. And this thing is fully capable of withstanding its weight under big jumping, so I'm pretty stoked to say that really functional suspension. I like to give it a little, you know what I'm saying, give it a little So I'm definitely stoked on that. It's one of the most functional scale suspensions that I've ever seen in person. I mean, it's pretty slick the way that this works. And then we utilized one of the braces from that Extreme RC kit in between the two shock keys, and that allowed us to just run a shock key directly to the Gatekeeper and then a little various spacer ball in to the shock. I got nothing but good things to say about this Extreme RC 4x4 kit. So it came with all the hardware, it was super well thought out, everything lined up perfectly, and the dude got it to me in relatively fast shipping. So if you guys want to go check it out, check out Extreme RC 4x4. I'll have a link down in the description. And coming back up front, we are running another one of these party lights. So this is a Glowback 24 from Amazon. It's just a LED light bar. It's RGB and it's programmable. And we're just running that so it shoots down. And that's just a light bar that you'd see on basically like, you know, the roof of like a crawler or something. And it runs on the 3rd channel. I'll turn the light off and give you guys a chance to peep what that looks like. All right, fire this thing up. And we'll move on to the motor and ESC. So we're running another Hobbywing system. This is a 4000 kV EZRun system from Hobbywing. And then that 4000 kV is paired to the little kit. So this comes in a kit from Hobbywing, and it's an EZRun SET Max 10. And then we're running a 23 tooth pinion on a no overdrive setup. And the no overdrive setup, you guys will have to reference the manual, but it requires changing out 2 gears so that there's an equal distribution both front and rear. And we are running the team associated full metal gear and the no overdrive setup. So I thought this was one of the reasons that I kind of like this project is we just busted out the Cherokee body and now we got a Cherokee XJ Prerunner. I mean, legitimately just running the same stuff. The ride heights are a little goofy because the body's so light, and it just opens up a bunch of different avenues for 313 bodies. So if you guys have any different rock crawler bodies, you know, and everything still fits in the same way. So just pretty cool to be able to have these options. All right, man, we got this thing all built back up, so I can't wait to get this thing out, do some shredding. We're gonna build us up some scale whoops and a couple scale jumps, maybe take it to the RC track. So thank you guys for watching. Hit the like and subscribe. Catch you guys later. Peace.